When I was 22, I faced one of the darkest periods of my life. I had just been diagnosed with a serious medical condition that required an expensive treatment plan. It wasn't optional. I either paid for it or my health would rapidly decline. The problem? I was a full-time student working part-time shifts at a bookstore. My savings weren't nearly enough, and I didn't have health insurance that could cover the costs. I turned to my parents thinking they'd step in the way most parents would, but I was wrong. When I sat them down and explained everything, they exchanged a look I'll never forget. My father sighed and said, "We can't help you. We already have financial commitments." I was stunned. What commitments could possibly be more urgent than their child's health? The answer came a week later when my younger sister, Emily, proudly announced that Mom and Dad had agreed to pay for her lavish wedding. Not just help pay for the entire thing. Venue, dress, catering, flowers, photography, even a honeymoon in Greece. The total bill? Nearly 6 figures? I couldn't believe it. Here I was begging for money to cover life-saving treatment, and they chose to prioritize an extravagant party for my sister. My condition didn't matter. What mattered was keeping up appearances, ensuring Emily had the fairy tale day she always dreamed of. I tried to reason with them. I told them I didn't need a lavish amount, just enough to get me through the treatments. But my mother coldly replied, "It wouldn't be fair to Emily if we took away from her wedding funds. You're young and strong. You'll find another way." Those words cut deeper than any diagnosis ever could. Emily smirked during that conversation, as if she relished being chosen over me. She had always been the golden child, the one who got the praise, the attention, and apparently the money too. With no other choice, I applied for loans, maxed out credit cards, and worked myself half to death to keep up with the costs. There were nights I cried myself to sleep wondering how my own parents could abandon me so easily. Meanwhile, Emily's wedding was plastered all over social media. Expensive champagne toasts, custom designer gown, fireworks at the end of the night. My parents beamed in every photo, proud of the celebration they funded. I couldn't even afford to attend since I was drowning in medical bills. Years passed. I eventually recovered, built my career, and dug myself out of debt on my own. It wasn't easy, but I grew stronger and more independent because of it. My relationship with my parents, distant at best. With Emily, non-existent. Then, just when I thought I had put it all behind me, the phone rang. It was my father, his voice trembling. He had lost everything in a bad investment scheme. Retirement savings gone, and the house foreclosed. And now, suddenly, they needed my help. When my father told me they had lost everything, I stayed silent for a moment. My mind flashed back to all the nights I had lain awake, terrified about whether I could afford my next round of treatments, while they happily poured money into Emily's dream wedding. He continued, his voice shaky. "We made some poor investment choices. The man we trusted convinced us it would double our retirement fund. Instead, it wiped us out. We're behind on bills. Don't know how we'll make it." I bit my lip, forcing myself not to laugh bitterly. Poor investment choices. Had chosen their golden child over me when my health was at risk. And now they expected me to swoop in like some financial savior after years of neglect. My father cleared his throat. "You're doing well now, aren't you? You have that good job? We were hoping you could help us out until we get back on our feet." The audacity in his voice nearly made me choke. I asked him straight out, "Do you remember when I begged you to help me with my medical bills? When I was desperate and had no one else?" There was silence on the other end. Then my mother cut in. That was different. Couldn't just cancel Emily's wedding. Her words made my blood boil. Different. My life, my health, my survival reduced to different. Emily's flowers and fireworks apparently mattered more than me. I told them I hadn't forgotten, remembered every dismissive comment, every time they told me I'd figure it out. While they poured thousands into a single day for Emily, I reminded them that I nearly lost everything, yet they didn't care enough to lift a finger. My father's tone grew defensive. "Can't hold on to grudges forever. We're your parents. Family helps family. We need you now." I laughed, cold and humorless. "Family helps family. That's rich coming from you. When I needed you, you chose a wedding over my life. And now you're broke, and suddenly family matters again." That's when my mother's mask cracked. She snapped, "Don't you dare throw that back in our faces. We did what we thought was best at the time. You've always been too dramatic." Too dramatic. That was their excuse. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, but instead of exploding, I let the calmness of resolve wash over me. I told them I wouldn't be helping, not with money, not with shelter, not with anything. My mother gasped. "You can't be serious. What are we supposed to do?" "Live on the streets," I replied. "That's not my problem. You made your choices. You'll have to live with them." Then I hung up. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of peace. It was painful, but it was also liberating. I wasn't the abandoned, desperate child anymore. I was the adult who had clawed my way out of hell, and I didn't owe them a single thing. But as I soon learned, my refusal would spark an even bigger firestorm because Emily wasn't going to stay quiet about it. It didn't take long before Emily came knocking figuratively and literally. Just 2 days after I told my parents no, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked perfect as always, dressed in designer clothes, hair done, nails freshly painted, as if the world hadn't just crumbled around our parents. She barely said hello before launching into it. "How could you? Mom and Dad told me you refused to help them. Do you even realize what they're going through? They could lose their house." Her voice carried the same entitlement I had grown up with, the tone that said the world owed her whatever she wanted. I didn't invite her in, but she barged past me anyway, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She turned to face me, arms crossed. "You have a good job, a steady income, you can spare money. They're your parents. Why are you being so selfish?" Her words made me laugh bitterly. "Selfish? You mean the way they chose you over me when I was fighting for my life? They had money back then, Emily. They had plenty. But they decided your fancy wedding was more important than my health." Her face tightened, but she didn't back down. "That's not fair. My wedding was a once-in-a-lifetime event. It wasn't just for MIT. It was for our whole family. They wanted to celebrate. Could have figured something out for your bills. You always manage." The sheer audacity nearly made me scream. A once-in-a-lifetime event? My medical treatments weren't optional. They were the difference between living and dying. Yet she truly believed her fairy tale day deserved precedence over my survival. I told her plainly. I did figure it out. Alone, without them. And now that they're in trouble, they expect me to swoop in like some ATM. "No, Emily, not happening." She rolled her eyes as if I were being ridiculous. "You're being vindictive. You're holding on to the past just to punish them. They made a mistake. So what? They need you now." I stared at her for a long moment before answering. "This isn't about revenge. This is about accountability. They made choices. There's choices have consequences. I don't have to sacrifice my peace of mind or my hard-earned stability to fix their mistakes." That's when she played her trump card. If you don't help them, they might lose everything. And when they're gone, when they're out on the street, that guilt is going to eat you alive. Her words were like poison, but they didn't land the way she hoped. I'd already carried years of guilt for not being the child they wanted, for being sick, for being a burden. That guilt had nearly broken me once. I wasn't going to let it happen again. I told her to leave. She looked at me with disgust, muttering, "You've changed, you're cold. No wonder they always loved me more." Then she slammed the door behind her. For a long moment I stood in silence, shaking from the confrontation. But then I realized she had admitted it out loud. No wonder they always loved me more. She said it with pride, not shame. And that single line proved everything I'd always known. I thought it would end there, but I was wrong. Emily wasn't finished. She had plans to make me pay, and she wasn't going to play fair. I thought Emily would storm off and nurse her wounded pride, but that wasn't her style. When she didn't get her way, she doubled down. And this time, her weapon of choice wasn't just guilt, it was humiliation. The first sign came a few days later, when a coworker approached me at the office, holding up her phone. "Hey, isn't this about you?" she asked, showing me a Facebook post. My stomach dropped. Emily had written a long, emotional rant about selfish family members, abandoning their parents in their time of need. She didn't use my name, but it wasn't hard to figure out who she meant. Lines like, "Some people care more about their pride than the roof over their parents' heads, and it's heartbreaking when the child you raised turns out so cold," were obviously about me. She even sprinkled in a few exaggerated claims, saying I made 6 figures and spent money on luxuries while our parents starved. The comments section was flooded with sympathy. Friends of hers, old neighbors, even extended family chimed in, calling whoever she meant heartless and ungrateful. Some guessed outright that it was me. My phone buzzed with messages from relatives asking how I could be so cruel to mom and dad. At first, I ignored it. I told myself people could say whatever they wanted. They knew the truth. But when I walked into the office the next morning, two of my coworkers gave me side-eye. One whispered, not quietly enough, "That's the guy whose parents are losing their house." That's when it hit me. Emily wasn't just trying to guilt me. She was trying to ruin my reputation. I called her, furious. "Take that post down. You're spreading lies about me." She didn't even sound remorseful. "If you're so worried about what people think, then do the right thing. Help mom and dad. I'll delete it once they're safe. Until then, maybe a little public shame will knock some sense into you." I couldn't believe it. She was holding my reputation hostage to get what she wanted. The same sister who had watched me suffer while our parents turned their backs was now painting me as the villain. I told her calmly, "You've made a mistake. Emily, you think you're winning, but all you're doing is proving me right. Keep going, and you'll regret it." She laughed. "What are you going to do? Make another sad speech about accountability? Nobody's on your side. Face it, you're alone." The call ended, but the fire inside me didn't. For years, I'd let Emily and my parents control the narrative that I was the weak one, the problem child, the burden. But this time, I wasn't going to let her rewrite the story. So, I began documenting everything. Screenshots of her posts, copies of old text messages from when my parents chose her wedding over my treatments. Even financial records that showed where their money had gone. I wasn't planning to fight her with words, I was preparing to fight her with truth. Because if Emily wanted a war, I was ready. I wasn't going to lose this one. I didn't want to play dirty. That had never been my way. But when someone drags your name through the mud publicly, sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to shine a light on the truth. The breaking point came when one of my close friends called me. He sounded hesitant. "Hey, I know this might be uncomfortable, but people are saying you're letting your parents lose their home. Is that true?" That hurt more than anything Emily had posted. Friends I had known for years were starting to question me. If I didn't take control of the story now, her version would become the only one anyone believed, so I crafted a post of my own. No vague hints, no indirect jabs. I was direct, but careful. I started with, "Since some family members have decided to share a very selective version of events, I feel it's time to explain the truth. I don't owe anyone an explanation, but I won't let lies destroy my reputation." Then I laid it all out. I explained how 3 years ago I had been diagnosed with a serious illness, how I begged my parents for help, not even with everything, just a portion of my medical bills. How they told me they couldn't afford it because they were saving for Emily's lavish wedding. I included screenshots of text messages where my mom said, "Sweetheart, your sister's big day only happens once. Can't let her down." And another where Emily told me to find a way because weddings are once in a lifetime. I didn't embellish. I didn't exaggerate. I simply posted the truth. And I explained that after recovering, I worked tirelessly to rebuild my life. I had saved enough to finally be stable, but my parents had made reckless investments, lost their home, and were now pressuring me to bail them out. I ended it with one line that carried years of pain and finally strength. I needed family when I was at my lowest. They chose a party over my life. If that makes me cold for saying no now, then so be it. I hit post and closed my laptop. At first, silence. Then my phone started buzzing. Notifications poured in. People commented with shock. Some messaged me privately apologizing for believing Emily's version. Others expressed outrage at my parents' choices. Few even said, "I would have done the same." But the best part, my post got shared, widely. And soon enough, the comments on Emily's original rant turned. People began asking her, "Is this true? Why didn't you mention your brother's illness? If he's telling the truth, then you owe him an apology." Emily panicked. She called me in the middle of the night, her voice trembling with rage. "Dare you air our private family business like that? Do you have any idea how humiliated I am right now?" I answered coolly. "Humiliated? You mean the way I felt when you tried to paint me as a heartless monster in front of everyone? The difference is I told the truth, told lies." There was a pause. Then she screamed, "You've ruined everything," and hung up. For once in my life, I wasn't the one left broken after an argument with her. I had taken back control. But little did I know, Emily wasn't done yet. Her next move would take things to a whole new level. I thought things would quiet down after my post, but Emily wasn't done. A few days later, my manager called me into his office with a serious look, showed me emails from none other than Emily, accusing me of being unstable, vindictive, and a danger at work. I couldn't believe it. She had taken our family fight and tried to drag my career into it. Luckily, my manager trusted me. I explained everything and even showed him the proof I'd already shared online. He shook his head and said, "Don't worry. I know what this is." Still, the fact that she'd tried to sabotage me like that made my blood boil. I called her that night. "Shh. You went after my job?" I demanded. Emily didn't even deny it. "You humiliated me publicly. Actions have consequences." For the first time, I didn't argue. I just told her, "You're not my problem anymore, Emily. I'm done." And I meant it. Her attempts backfired anyway. Friends and relatives started distancing themselves from her, not me. Even an aunt messaged me saying, "We always knew Emily was spoiled, but this is too much." My parents stayed silent, probably embarrassed, and most importantly, they stopped asking me for money. Emily tried one last stunt, posting a dramatic video online about being betrayed by her brother. But instead of sympathy, the comments turned against her. She quickly deleted it. And then came silence. That was when I realized something. I didn't need to fight back anymore. Emily was doing the damage all by herself. I'd finally let go of years of guilt, favoritism, and manipulation. For once, my life was my own and I wasn't going back. Thank you for listening. What would you have done in this situation? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more true stories like this, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is healing and moving on.